So there's been some comments on your podcast about why you made some of the decisions you've made in your life. Why did you choose to marry women? Why did you choose not to live as a out proud gay man 50 years ago and make some of the life choices that you made along the way?
I think that's a fair question. I lived in a generation where gay was not talked about. It was considered to be perverted. It was considered to actually be a mental illness. And so, because of those issues, it creates shame in a person. And so, you do what you have to do to survive. I think for our young folks to understand, or even those in John's generation, if they could put themselves back in my generation and understand the restrictions and the things that you did not talk about, I think they would have a better understanding. But a couple of them made a comment. One in particular made a comment, why did you deceive your wives? Even though I made some positive comments. And I don't see it as deceive. I see it as understanding. When I was married my first time, I truly believed that I was, as society indicated, that I was heterosexual. Society believes you should marry, have children or not have children. And so to me, I thought that's what society wanted me to do. And I had so much shame at that time, I was denying who I was. Some of that shame is coming from society. Some of that shame came from my family. Some of the shame came from myself. And I think when you're in that situation, you're not deceiving anyone. I guess if I would say there was deceit, the deceit was on my part with deceiving who I was. That's where the real deceit was. But I did what I thought was right. I thought I did what was the thing that was the best for me to do. And I hope that gives some understanding of where I went in my generation as well. Now, I know John is in a different generation than I am. John, how did you feel when you came out in your circumstances? How did that work for you?
Well, it was more challenging for me than it is today. And an example of that is we just celebrated San Diego Pride this last weekend. And when I first started going to Pride festivals, it was exclusively gay men. Maybe a few lesbians would participate, but what you see at these Pride festivals now are you see families and babies in strollers, and there's all sorts of heterosexual allies. It's just the world has changed in 30, 35 years in ways that I never imagined. And I think that's why it's important that people in your generation and older than you tell your stories, because it is so much more widely accepted now that it's easy for somebody to lose sight of how much progress has been made. Yes, it was difficult in my generation. I was afraid if I came out that I would be kicked out of the house, and I knew I wasn't equipped to support myself as a teenager. I was afraid of losing jobs early on in my career. And a lot of people today don't have those fear. And I just, again, I'm repeating myself a little bit, but I think it's important for people that don't have that fear, don't have that challenges, know that people that are still alive, people that are attending the same Pride festivals that they are, went through those things. It wasn't that long ago that it was much different than it is now. I never thought we'd see gay marriage. Once we saw gay marriage, I never thought there would be a threat that we might lose it. However, that potential is always out there, and that's why we have to stay vigilant. So yeah, it was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge for me, not nearly as much as it was for you being 20 years ahead of me. I had the benefit of 20 years of civil rights post Stonewall to lean on, and you didn't have that. So that's why I love to tell these stories and share different experiences, because it allows people who fortunately didn't have to experience our same struggles to understand what it used to be like.